Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today, I'm joined by Talmage Egan. He is a digital marketing strategist over at OC Tanner. Talmage, welcome to the show, man. How's it going today?
Happy to be here. I'm doing good, doing well.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm in Colorado Springs, and it has been pretty frigid. I think the sun's actually shining today, which it looks blue behind you as well. So, that's what I love about winter in the Rockies. We get it cold, but we get the sunshine too. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. We're going to be diving into some SEO strategies, really three main ones that you've been thinking about and your team over there at OC Tanner has been working on. And when I saw your post on LinkedIn or comment, wherever we connected there in the LinkedIn ecosystem, I was like, man, SEO has been so top of mind for us. And I've been seeing a lot of questions and comments from the content we've been putting out there. This would make a great episode for the show. For a little bit of context, before we dive into some tactical stuff for listeners, Talmage, give us a little background on yourself and what you and the OC Tanner team are up to.
Oh, great. So a little background on myself. I really went the SEO route a few years ago. I was in a couple various marketing positions, but then I went with an agency called Big Leap and was able to work on a lot of big brands like Avis Budget, Car Rental, some B2B players like Workfront and Domo that are local here in Utah. So I was able to get a wide range of experience before coming in-house here. So now I'm at the OC Tanner team. I run digital marketing here, which includes our content marketing, our SEO, our paid search, our paid media. But SEO kind of being my first love is where I really dug in deep and worked hard initially when I got here. It was kind of the low-hanging fruit that I saw that I wanted to tackle. OC Tanner, we're B2B. We are in the human capital management space. So we do employee recognition tools, company culture tools, and that really help people thrive at work.
I love that mission, man. We recently, as a lot of listeners of this show might already know, we recently launched a show all about crafting culture. By that name, crafting culture. It's been so top of mind for us. We just thought, man, that really deserves a show that's going all out there. So anyway, we're already like-minded, Talmage. I love the work that you guys are doing. Let's jump into some of those SEO tactics that we alluded to at the top of the episode. The first, you guys have seen some really phenomenal results. I believe it was quadrupling monthly non-branded search traffic. And it was really kind of by two ways, creating EAT-focused content and building links at scale. You want to break down the first one of those for us?
For sure. I came into OC Tanner right after a site redesign, which we didn't have an SEO really focused on the site redesign, which is crucial. Any SEO will know when you redesign a site, you need to make sure that you have the proper 301 redirects all set up. And we didn't have anyone really watching that. So I came in with there was very low monthly non-branded search traffic. We got rid of a blog. We got rid of a couple things. So there was we a little bit had a blank slate to work with. And that's where I started. We were positioned really well because we are an old company. We're over 90 years old. We've been on the web since the internet existed. And so we had a lot of good authority initially. We have old website, old links, we were really established. So we really just had to give Google what it wanted because our website was already positioned really well. We had good topical authority. We just had to answer the questions that the users were asking. And the way that we did that, lots of keyword research to see what was in our space, looked at a lot of competitor articles, and then the really hot topic, the hot strategy right now is long form articles or skyscrapers. Brian Dean, I think, coined that term, skyscrapers. Long articles that are almost like 2,000 words long that really go comprehensively into a topic. So we picked about 4 of those topics that we wanted to go into: employee recognition programs, years of service awards, employee engagement, peer-to-peer recognition, topics that were really right in our wheelhouse, that were almost a little, they were longer tail and they were lower funnel. We tackled those, and just giving Google what they wanted we were able to really see our traffic skyrocket.
I love what you're saying there, Talmage, especially the mention of just giving Google what it wants. We were talking the other day about, every time Google has an update, people freak out. And what rises to the top is usually what's answering the question better. Every time Google has an update, all the tricks and the hacks around the current loopholes kind of fall down. And so the better content continues to rise. And it only makes sense, right? Technology gets better. Google is trying to connect searchers with the answers. And so it makes sense that connection should just happen better. So I'm totally with you that we should focus on giving Google what it wants, which is, what are the searchers looking for? What is that search intent? So for folks, I dropped that EAT, focused content term earlier. For anybody who needs a little bit of background on that, if you want to unpack that for us as it relates to what you were sharing there, and then talk a little bit about your link building strategy.
Sure. That's great. So EAT is a really buzzword right now in the SEO world. It's expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And what goes into that were some of the things I mentioned, that we're an old website, that we're trusted. We're not a website that just popped up on the website a month ago. A website that's been up for 10 years versus a website that's been up for a year is going to have an advantage because Google has seen what you've done. They trust you a little bit more. Then what's your expertise? What are you an authority on? If you're a website and you've been posting about dog food for 10 years and then you post a blog post about cat food, you're not necessarily set up to rank for that because Google has seen you as an authority on one subject but not the other. And that's why I think we were positioned so well, is because we had that expertise and authority and trust that we built for years. So not everybody is going to have that same, going to be set up that well. That's part of the reason I took the job here. Is I when I was interviewing, I took a look and I was like, wow, we're really positioned to do some really good things, and that's why I wanted to come here. But hopefully, that gives some context.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you were positioned well to add fuel to that fire. So let's talk a little bit about how you added fuel to that existing fire that was already burning. You kind of saw, hey, I've got a little bit of a head start or something to work off of here. What was your link building strategy to make it more efficient and not a waste of time? Because frankly, I've talked to some folks that have just seen our link building strategy, it just takes so much effort for very little return at times. What are some of the pitfalls and some of the solutions that you found that led to some of these great results we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. Number one, first of all, you have to build content that matters and that it's going to be good. You don't want to build links to unquality content. You gotta hit that on the head first. So we created content that really addressed comprehensively. It had good statistics. It had a lot of validation. It used a lot of proof terms. So if you haven't heard what proof terms are or related keywords, I've heard a great example of, if you're searching for a term wedding band, you could get one of two things: a wedding band. So you search wedding band, you're maybe looking for a band that plays at weddings, that plays music, or you're looking for a wedding band that goes on your finger. Exactly. So you want to give those proof terms to give context around what your article is about. So hit those first, and then look at link building, because you want to give content that's even worthy of being linked to. If you don't do that, all the link building in the world is not going to help you. Number two thing, there's some low-hanging fruit. I just came from a redesign where we had a lot of pages that were removed from the web that already had a lot of backlinks because our website has been around for a while. So I used tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush to identify those pages that had external links already facing them. And then I redirected those. I didn't redirect everything from the old site because I just didn't have the time to go through it. There's a lot of pages that died. But I went to those that were related to my term. So we had an old blog post on employee recognition that already had 20 links. I redirected all those to my new long form skyscraper about employee recognition. So that's some low hanging fruit where you're not necessarily, that's what you're in control of. You don't have to reach out to any third parties. Use the URLs that you already have and get those linking to the right place. So once you take care of those and maybe brand mentions, those are some of the low-hanging fruit that you can take care of. So now going on the offense, what's a little more outside of my control, we hired an agency to help us with our link building. There's a way to do it that's white hat. There's a way to do it that's black hat. I think what we have is a very white hat approach because we're paying an agency to help promote our content on third-party websites. And part of that is then they link back to our website. There's a lot of agencies that do this. I recommend asking around those that you trust to get a good recommendation because this is where you can get in a lot of trouble if you do it wrong, building links at scale. We work with our publisher that they have relationships with third-party websites that they've been publishing for years in a variety of industries. They provide blog content for websites and they reserve the right to link to sources that they deem accurate. So we work with them. They're already publishing on a lot of third-party sites. When they see an opportunity to link back to us, they take it, and that's what we're paying them for, is publishing content that's related to our field and linking back to us. And we do about 7 to 10 a month. And that way we're building. So every month we're building links to my skyscrapers. We're building 3 here, 3 there, 3 there. So Google is seeing consistent links being built to our content over a period of time.
Today's growth story is about Active PDF, the leading global provider of server-side PDF automation and digital transformation tools. Active PDF gives teams the tools they need to create, convert, modify, view, extract, and automate data to and from PDF files. Active PDF relies on product trial signups for leads to drive new business, but they faced a challenge when low-quality signups were driving up the cost of product trials. To overcome their off-target lead generation and rising costs, they turned to Directive. Directive went to work optimizing visitor experience and centralizing high-intent keywords for Active PDF. With Directive's help, Active PDF tripled their conversion rates and quadrupled their trial signups, leading to one of their most successful quarters to date. If you want to learn how to drive this kind of growth, you need to check out Directive's Digital Marketing Course Institute. Step by step, click by click, Institute teaches you all of the skills you need to launch your own successful digital marketing campaigns. Sign up today at directiveconsulting.com/institute and get your first 4 lessons on us. Once again, that's directiveconsulting.com/institute to get 4 free lessons from the pros. All right, let's get back to the show.
I think those are some important points there. The quote you mentioned earlier, all the link building in the world doesn't matter with quality content. And then making sure that you go about that link building the right way. And then not just, looking for link building back to your homepage, but to those skyscraper pieces of content. I think those are definitely 3 things as I'm jotting notes here that I took down. You mentioned looking for an SEO partner that does it the right way and not the wrong way. There are some ways to get it wrong. You mentioned earlier at the top of the episode, Talmage, that you've worked on the agency side and the brand side. Are there maybe 1 or 2 things, maybe 3, I don't know, or maybe 1 tip that you recommend for folks in evaluating, hey, is this partner going to help us do it the right way or the wrong way? Any red flags, any tips? Since you've been on both sides of the fence, I had to ask.
Sure. I think your biggest indicator is how much it's going to cost you, because if it's really cheap, you're not looking at the right place, because it takes a lot to build links. It's expensive. It's hard to do. And that's why it's worth outsourcing, because if I were trying to do link building at scale on my own, I would need a whole team. When I hire an agency, they have writers, they have existing relationship with publishers. They're writing quality content that publishers are willing to take. Having a team that's built up that respect and has that expertise, it costs money. So that's, I think, the sniff test that you'd want to follow is, do they really have a team? Have they been doing this for a while?
Yeah,
and
I love that.
They're not going to give me 1,000 links for $5. So,
and I can see the reality of it too, man. We push out a lot of content, and we're approached by folks just this week. It said, "Hey, we'll pay $80 for these random links," and they had nothing to do with the shows that they were wanting to put links in. And to me, I'm just like, oh, I hope the folks that are being represented here know what they're getting. So I'm seeing it out there in the wild. You're speaking the truth, man. Let's get on to the other tactic that I know has worked well for you guys, and that's using structured data to enhance SERP features. So for anybody who's not familiar with that term, if you want to unpack that real quick and then speak to the strategy that you guys have been deploying here.
Great. So structured data, it goes by many names. People call it structured data. They'll call it schema. Schema is, I think, a type of structured data. Anyway, it's basically code that you're putting on your website. JSON code is a common one that Google has accepted and looks to for certain features. Common ones are like articles. When you write an article, you want to put an article schema on there. There's company schema, so you can call out, this is my company name, here's our phone number. So when search engines, when they crawl your site, they see this schema and they can bring to the top and use it for things like answer boxes and featured snippets, FAQ type dropdowns. The FAQ type dropdowns is where we've seen the most success. So these long form articles are basically FAQ pages. So we have one on employee recognition. We have probably 5 or 7 questions on that page of when we're doing Q&A. What is employee recognition? It's this. How do you implement a program? This is how you do it. What are the best companies to do this with? Here it is. There's a lot of schema, structured data, validators. Google is the one I always go to. It's a lot of, if you're going to write it yourself, there's a lot of trial and error to get it right. But luckily, Google has a great validator. You can also see what your competitors are doing. You could plug in my pages from octender.com and see what schema I've used. And that's a great place to start, is to look at competitors, see what they're using. You can basically just copy their schema and replace it with your own. But the FAQ schema is where we saw the most success. So we wrote this code in JSON that had these 5 or so FAQs. We put them on the page, requested Google to index that page through Google Search Console. And within a day or so, I saw these really cool drop downs in the SERP, in the search engine result page. So we were ranking on the first page. For example, if you typed in employee recognition program, we rank really well for employee recognition program and employee recognition programs. You'll see our listing, and then right under our listing, you'll see 3 drop downs for those FAQs on our page. As far as I can tell, we're the only people to do that in our space. Neil Patel and Brian Dean are all over this. They've done many posts that you've got to do this FAQ. I'm surprised I don't see it as often as I do. It's increased our visibility pretty significantly. It's doubled the size of our listing, and it's way more intriguing. If I see the drop downs, it's worked really well. So I mean that is just one schema. FAQ schema is one of hundreds that you can pick. Review schema. If you're gathering reviews on your site, use review schema so you get those cool stars on your search and your result page. It's going to be very specific to your business, but since B2B, the article schema is going to be big, your business schema is going to be big, your FAQ schema, that's going to be important. Those are the ones I'd highlight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I love the way that you're providing some really tactical examples that people can look at. And the other thing that I hear you saying is kind of what we've been leaning into is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Look at what some of your competitors are doing. We've talked about using the Google Alphabet Soup methodology to identify search intent for those longer term keywords. There are things that you can go to see what's happening, what's being used, what's being searched for, and use that as your basis as opposed to, okay, this is kind of what we think we should do, and go from there. Give yourself some head starts. And I love the way that you're giving people some tactical examples so that they can get those head starts today. All right, the third thing I know you wanted to talk about, Talmage, which has been on our mind here, and I think is very practical. If it doesn't really matter, kind of like backlinks without quality content, SEO strategy without alignment to your creative team. I know you wanted to speak a little bit about how you teach your creative team to care about SEO so that you can work with them and be hand in hand and multiply your efforts as opposed to kind of fighting back and forth. Tell us a little bit about your journey and advice you've got for folks on this point.
Great. So there's a lot of third-party validation. I started with looking at reports on what B2B buyers, how do they research? And I think the popular statistic out there is that 70% of B2B buyers go through their buying process without you, or they research 70% of the time without you. They research for the first 3 months, 70% conduct anonymous research without you. So there's a lot of validation that people don't want to talk to a sales rep yet. They want to research on their own. And where do they go? They go to Google to do that. And so if you're not a thought leader on Google, you don't exist to the B2B buyer until way down the funnel, until you force your way in front of them. Unless you get a paid ad in front of them, they're not going to see you, and they want to do research on their own. So that was kind of where I started. I wanted to show them that our personas are not finding us. Then I took them through all of the major keywords we're an old company, so we figure that we are a thought leader. We figure that, hey, like when someone's looking for service awards, we're the ones they find because we've been doing it the longest. But that wasn't necessarily the case. And Google is great, real time. You just type in, let's search these keywords that we think we're available for. And we go in, we're on the third page. And everyone's shocked. So that's where I started. And then the next phase was teaching them how to rank, because there's a lot of stereotypes about SEO. I think from the writer's perspective, they don't want their content to be downgraded because they've keyword stuffed it. They wrote this great white paper, and now I want to turn it into this Reddit article that is just full of cliches and keyword stuffing. So I think the mindset that had to shift was, we're not writing content to game Google. We're writing the best content out there. That's one. We're writing the best content. Our competitors have better content than us, and they rank higher than us. So let's write better content than them. That was where we kind of had to start. But the other thing is, we also have to use some keywords. I know there's not keyword stuffing, but if we're writing about a certain keyword, we're writing about a topic, we actually have to say that topic. We actually have to use that word, because that was part of it. Is we'd say the term in a creative way, and we wouldn't even use the keywords that we're trying to rank for. And then we look at a competing article, and you use a tool like SEO Quake has a great tool to look at how often a keyword is used, keyword density. And you go to a competitor and you say, let's see how much they're using employee recognition on their page. And you see it being used 25 times, and we're not using it at all. So you have to use it sometimes. You don't have to keyword stuff. You still have to make great content, but you can't avoid saying the keyword that you want to rank for. So with and then teaching them some of the things that are outside of your control, other things that you're going to do, like with link building, and then the follow-up. So you have the follow-up would be show them the results. When someone gets an article that ranks, I would broadcast it. I'd send them some recognition. I bring it up in the meetings. We're ranking on the first page for this. Thank you, so-and-so, for writing that article. You really nailed it. And so I think those are the three the three ingredients for success are: create the need, show them where competition's beating you, understand your persona and why you need to be there. Number two, take the time to teach them the tactics, teach them and help them understand the how, what it takes to rank, what's the history of SEO, fight some of those stereotypes that they maybe have. And then number three, keep them updated. Send them the results. Let them see the analytics. Don't let them be a ticket taker and they never get to see the results.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you kind of have to break down the preconceived notion that it doesn't matter. You have to break down the preconceived notion that I can't create good creative content that is SEO rich, and then apply some how to. And I love the way that, hey, here's an idea, get in a room and Google some things that you think your team is like, oh yeah, we own that. We're going to be, spot 0 on Google and own the audio snippet, but oh, we're on page 3. And then recognize, praise. If that's what you want to see, then recognize it, celebrate it, show them that value. And I think the connection here to a creative team is, they value the creativity and the thoughtfulness in that end product. But the connection here to get your creative team to see the light of where they play a role in the SEO strategy, I think is none of them ever want to put all this work into something that's never going to be seen. So if you can tell that story and connect that for them on a regular basis, both in kind of setting the stage and then ongoing, like you're talking about, I think that's the recipe for success. Man, Talmage, you have brought a ton of value today. I'm sure that listeners are going to have some follow-up questions, probably want to stay connected with you, pick your brain down the road. What's the best way for them to stay connected or reach out to you down the line, man?
Sure. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can also follow me on Twitter, Talmage E on Twitter. But LinkedIn is probably the best. Talmage Egan on LinkedIn. Send me some notes. I've been mentored and helped a bunch in my career by those who have gone before me. So I'm happy to help out on some of those tactical issues that you might face.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I hate it when podcasts incessantly ask their listeners for reviews, but I get why they do it, because reviews are enormously helpful when you're trying to grow a podcast audience. So here's what we decided to do. If you leave a review for B2B Growth in Apple Podcasts and email me a screenshot of the review to james@sweetfishmedia.com, I'll send you a signed copy of my new book, Content-Based Networking, How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. We get a review, you get a free book. We both win.